All right, so get ready because today we're going deep on this story that's kind of a mix of like a space thriller and some real mind-bending science fiction.
Yeah, it's wild.
So, our source material basically gives us this picture of an astronaut
Right.
who comes back from what should have been just a routine mission,
Hmm.
but he comes back with the ability to defy
But
gravity,
the really interesting part is that his new ability,
like completely defy gravity.
yeah, like completely defy gravity, but it all comes from this near-death experience that he has during a spacewalk.
Oh,
So instead of, like the terrifying free fall that you would expect,
right.
he encounters this mysterious force
Uh-huh.
that essentially turns him into like a human anti-gravity device.
Wow, so instead of plummeting to his doom, he's held in this like bizarre stasis. That
Yeah.
must have been an absolutely surreal experience. I mean, can
Yeah.
you imagine?
Well, think about it. He goes from this expected terror of, oh my gosh, my tether broke,
Right.
to this feeling of weightlessness,
Yeah.
but not in the way that astronauts usually experience it.
Right.
This is something totally different, something completely unexplainable.
Yeah,
I mean, that kind of experience, it would definitely leave a mark,
for sure.
especially considering the physical changes he undergoes when he comes back to Earth.
Right. It's not just like a mental thing.
Yeah.
It's like this force actually physically changes him.
Exactly.
So back on Earth, he literally feels lighter.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's constantly being pulled upwards.
Right.
You can almost imagine him having to relearn how to walk, how to interact with the world.
Exactly. And the story really emphasizes how baffled the doctors are.
Right.
I mean, they're examining him, they're running tests, but nothing's coming up.
Yeah, they can't figure it out.
Nope. They're throwing around all these theories about solar flares, maybe even some kind of cosmic radiation.
Right.
But there's just no precedent for what they're seeing.
And that's where the story gets really interesting.
Yeah.
The story leaks to the media, and suddenly this astronaut is thrust into the spotlight.
Yeah.
The press dubs him Zero-G Man. The whole world is captivated, but not everyone sees his abilities as like a scientific marvel.
Right. This is where the story takes a darker turn.
Okay.
It really reflects our own anxieties about things we don't understand.
Right.
There's this initial wave of fascination for sure,
Yeah.
but it quickly turns into fear.
Uh-huh.
And this urge to control, especially from people who see him as a potential weapon.
Yeah. So instead of being treated as like a scientific anomaly,
Right.
he becomes a target.
Mhm.
He becomes a valuable asset that people want to exploit.
Exactly.
It's interesting how the story highlights this tendency we have to weaponize anything we don't fully understand.
Yeah. It's a recurring theme throughout history, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
We see something new, something powerful, and our first instinct is often to turn it into a weapon.
Yeah.
This story just takes that idea to the extreme,
Right.
using the backdrop of space exploration and this almost mythical idea of defying gravity.
Right. And for our astronaut, this newfound attention is not welcome at all. He goes from being a celebrated explorer to basically a fugitive.
Yeah, he's on the run.
He's forced to use his abilities to escape from the people who want to control him.
Right.
Imagine that pressure,
I know.
the constant fear of being captured,
Yeah.
knowing that your very existence has become like a matter of national security.
Yeah. And the way the story portrays his escape, it's almost claustrophobic.
Really?
Even though he can defy gravity,
Hmm.
he's still trapped in this web of surveillance and suspicion.
He's constantly looking over his shoulder. He's
Right.
flying under the radar to evade the people who are hunting him.
Right.
Now, I'm curious about the data that the professor entrusted to him.
Yeah.
What's so important about this information that he was willing to risk everything to make sure it was safe?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
This data isn't just some random scientific findings.
Uh-huh.
It's the key to understanding where the astronaut's abilities came from
Oh,
and potentially how to replicate them.
so that's what makes him so valuable to the people chasing him. Exactly. It's not just about controlling him, it's about unlocking the secrets of his power.
Right.
And you have to think about the ethical implications of that.
Oh, absolutely. It's like opening Pandora's box.
Exactly. Imagine if any nation, any corporation, had the power to create humans who could defy gravity.
It's a scary thought.
The implications for warfare, for surveillance, for the balance of power, it's mind-blowing.
It really is.
And the story definitely doesn't shy away from those darker possibilities.
No, it doesn't. But it also presents a different perspective.
Okay.
A group of fringe physicists who see the astronaut's abilities not as a weapon, but as a key to understanding something fundamental about the universe.
So they represent a more idealistic view of science.
Yeah, the pursuit of knowledge for the sake of knowledge.
Right, not for profit or power.
Exactly. They believe the astronaut's experience could revolutionize our understanding of physics. maybe
Wow.
even lead to breakthroughs in energy or transportation.
That would be incredible.
It would, and they offer him sanctuary. A chance to explore his abilities in a safe environment, away from the government and the people who want to exploit him.
It sounds like a safe haven.
It is, but it's fragile. A
Yeah.
temporary break from the forces that are closing in.
Because the people hunting him, they're not going to give up.
No, they see him as too much for risk.
Right.
A loose end that needs to be tied up.
And that leads to this incredibly tense standoff at the lab.
Yes, when the paramilitary forces finally catch up with him.
It's like a siege.
It is, with the scientists and the astronaut trapped inside.
And they know if they're captured the data, the research, everything they've been working for is lost.
Exactly. And in that moment of desperation, the professor makes a big decision.
Okay.
He gives the astronaut the data,
Wow.
tells him to escape, to protect the information at all costs.
That's a huge gamble.
It is putting all their faith in this man who's still trying to understand his own powers.
Right.
But it also shows how much they believe in him.
Uh-huh.
Their conviction that he'll use this power for good, even though they can't be sure of what will happen.
And the story's description of his escape is breathtaking.
It really is.
He uses his gravity-defying abilities to outmaneuver the soldiers, to literally fly through all the chaos.
He becomes almost like a mythical figure.
It's a powerful moment of transformation.
It is.
He finally embraces his abilities,
Uh-huh.
not out of fear or necessity, but out of a sense of purpose.
Yeah,
He's not
yeah.
running from something anymore. He's running towards something,
You're right.
even if he doesn't fully understand what that is yet.
Yeah,
It's a brilliant contrast, isn't it?
it is.
While the world sees him as this potential weapon, this force of chaos,
Yeah.
he's actually evolving. He's becoming something more.
It's almost like his journey mirrors the evolution of our understanding of gravity itself.
That's a really interesting thought.
We started with this simple idea of things falling down,
Right.
but the more we learned, the more complex it became.
Right.
Relativity, quantum mechanics, the idea that gravity might be a wave or a particle or something else entirely.
Right.
It's wild.
So the astronaut's transformation, his ability to manipulate gravity, it's like a physical manifestation of that scientific journey.
Exactly.
He's pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible,
Uh-huh.
forcing us to reconsider our place in the universe.
Precisely. And the story leaves us with this open ending,
Okay.
this image of him going back to the space
So
station.
where it all began.
Exactly. What do you think about that decision?
It feels symbolic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's not just running anymore.
Right.
He's choosing to confront the source of his power,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even searching for a way to use it for something greater than himself.
It raises some really interesting questions.
Like what?
Is he looking for answers?
Okay.
Or is he trying to protect us from the people who would exploit his abilities?
Right.
Or maybe he's looking for a way to help humanity evolve,
Okay.
to break free from the limits of our planet.
The possibilities are really fascinating.
They are.
This story is so much more than just a superhero story.
It really is.
It makes us think about the responsibility that comes with power,
Yeah.
especially power that challenges the laws of nature.
It also makes us look inward.
What do you mean?
If we were in the astronaut's shoes, how would we use this ability?
That's a good question.
Would we give in to the temptation of personal gain, or would we try to use it to help humanity?
Those are definitely questions worth thinking about.
Especially in a world where technology is advancing so quickly.
Right.
Every day we're pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Uh-huh.
And this story reminds us that we need to think about the ethical implications of those advancements.
Right. It's not enough to just chase progress. No, we have to think about the consequences, the potential for both good and evil.
The astronaut story is a cautionary tale,
Yeah.
but it's also a story of hope,
Okay.
of the human spirit that wants to understand, to explore, to break through limitations.
So to wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
If defying gravity were possible, would it be a blessing or a curse?
That's a tough one.
It is. It challenges us to imagine the future,
Yeah.
to think about the choices we might face and the responsibility that comes with unlocking the secrets of the universe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you have to consider, the ethical implications of that,
Like opening Pandora's box.
Exactly. Imagine if, any country, any company could create people who could just defy gravity.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah, the implications for war, for surveillance, for just the whole balance of power.
It's crazy.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The story definitely doesn't shy away from those, like, darker possibilities.
No, it doesn't. But it also gives us, like, another side of the story.
Okay.
There's this group of physicists, kind of on the fringe,
Right.
and they see the astronauts' abilities not as a weapon, but as a way to understand something really fundamental about the universe.
So they represent, like, a more idealistic view of science.
Yeah, exactly. Knowledge for the sake of knowledge.
Right. Not for profit or power.
Exactly. And they believe the astronauts' experience could totally change how we understand physics.
Well, yeah.
Maybe even lead to breakthroughs in, like, energy or transportation.
That would be incredible.
It would. And they offer him sanctuary.
Okay.
A chance to explore his abilities in a safe place, away from the government and everyone who wants to use him.
It sounds like a real haven.
It is, but it's fragile.
Yeah.
It's only temporary.
Right. Because the people hunting him, they're not going to just stop.
No, they see him as way too risky,
Uh-huh.
like a loose end that needs to be tied up.
And that leads to that really intense standoff at the lab.
Yeah, when the paramilitary forces finally catch up to him,
It's like a siege.
it is the scientists and the astronaut are trapped inside.
And they know that if they get captured, the data, the research, everything they've worked for, it's gone.
Yeah, and in that moment, like a moment of desperation, the professor makes a huge decision.
Okay.
He gives the astronaut the data.
He does.
Yeah, he tells him to escape, to protect the information no matter what.
That's a huge gamble.
They're putting all their faith in this man who's still figuring out his own powers.
Yeah.
But it also shows how much they believe in him.
Right.
They're convinced he'll use this power for good, even though they can't know for sure what will happen.
And the way the story describes his escape, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's breathtaking.
He uses his powers to, like, outmaneuver the soldiers, to fly through all the chaos.
He's like this almost mythical figure.
Yeah, it's a powerful moment of transformation.
It is.
He's finally embracing his abilities,
Mhm.
not because he's scared or has to, but because he has a purpose now.
Exactly.
He's not running away from something anymore. He's running towards something,
Mm-hmm.
even if he doesn't quite know what it is yet.
Yeah, it really is a brilliant contrast.
It is.
Like the world sees him as this weapon, this like chaotic force, but he's actually evolving and becoming something more.
It's almost like his journey kind of mirrors how our understanding of gravity has evolved, you know?
I like that.
Like we started with this basic idea of things falling down,
Yeah.
but the more we learned, the more complicated it got.
Relativity, quantum mechanics, even the idea that gravity might be a wave or a particle or something totally different.
Yeah, it gets pretty wild.
That does.
So the astronaut's transformation, his ability to like control gravity, it's like a real life version of that scientific journey.
Exactly. He's pushing the limits of what we thought was possible.
Right.
Making us rethink our place in the universe.
Yeah. And the story ends, but it doesn't really end.
Right. It leaves us with this open ending,
Yeah.
with him going back to the space station.
Back to where it all started.
Exactly. What do you make of that choice?
It feels symbolic, you know? He's not running anymore.
Right.
He's choosing to face the source of his power.
Hmm.
Maybe even looking for a way to use it for something bigger than himself.
It really makes you think.
It does.
Yeah.
Like, what's he going back for?
Is he looking for answers?
Okay.
Or is he trying to protect us from the people who want to use him?
Right.
Or maybe he's searching for a way to help humanity take the next step in its evolution.
To break free from Earth?
Yeah, the possibilities are pretty fascinating.
They really are. And this story, it's so much more than just a superhero story.
Oh, definitely.
It makes us think about the responsibility that comes with having power,
For sure.
especially power that can defy the laws of nature.
It also makes us look at ourselves.
How so?
If we were the astronaut, how would we use that ability?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Would we give in to the temptation to use it for ourselves, or would we try to use it to help others?
That's something we should all think about.
Especially in a world where technology is changing so fast.
Right, we're pushing the limits of what's possible every single day.
And this story reminds us that we can't forget about the ethics of it all.
We can't just chase progress without thinking about the consequences.
Exactly. There's
Right.
potential for good and for bad.
So it's a cautionary tale, but it's also hopeful.
It is. It's about the human spirit.
That drive to understand, to explore, to break through barriers.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this one thought. If we could defy gravity, would it be a blessing or a curse?
That's a tough one.
It really is.
Mm.
It forces us to think about the future, the choices we might have to make, and what it means to unlock the secrets of the universe.
I think that's a great place to leave it.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.